Okay. Okay, thank you. Please,
Okay, thank
if you can start from the Middle East
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. So, Middle East, basically, most of the universities that we're going to talk about today are concentrated in UAE and in Qatar. And they're predominantly either US universities, UK universities, Australian universities, or Indian universities. And depending on which country they come from, they're either 3-year programs or 4-year programs. The admissions are largely academic based, though, of course, if it's a US university, they would consider other things also, more holistic, but by and large, it's academic based. And the cost of living can be anywhere from 15 to 20 lakhs per annum. So just to give you in Dubai, in some of the universities, the US universities in this region is the biggest one is the NYU Abu Dhabi. The tuition cost is around 50 lakhs. Of course, it's the NYU. It gives the NYU degree. It offers almost all the programs that NYU offers. Then there's RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. I've had a chance to see their campus. They have a pretty decent campus. They offer almost all the programs that they offer in the US. So it's pretty much exactly the way it is in the US. A smaller campus in the US, but pretty good. Halt is a business school. Again, the main campus is in US. They also have a campus in London. They also have a campus in Dubai. Then there are these two American universities of Sharjah and Dubai, which actually are not American universities at all. It's just the name. So basically, what they're doing is they're offering some programs are accredited by some American associations, but they're not really a branch campus of any American university. So the name is a bit of a misnomer. That's why I wanted to put it here, but also flag that they're not really American campuses. Right, but they are pretty decent and they are very well accepted in the in UAE and quite popular actually. I think we can go to the next one. Then some of the UK universities in this region, University of Birmingham, again, a decent campus. I had a chance to visit them. Uh, it is a single building, but a large, beautifully done campus. There's Heriot Watt, there's Middlesex, University of Wollongong, there's Murdoch, and there's a Canadian university. All the others are branch campuses, but the Canadian University is not a branch campus. It's again a generic university which has some transfer programs with some universities in Canada. So they offer some 2+2, some 3+1, those kind of combinations, but it's not a branch campus of any one university. Yeah, and the tuitions have already been put out here. Um, yeah. Then there are Indian universities in the UAE. The BITS Dubai actually was a pretty interesting campus. They offer the exactly same program as BITS Pilani. They call themselves BITS Pilani in Dubai. The big advantage is they don't need the JEE. So if your student is not has either not taken the JEE or has not fared well in it, this and they don't need the BITSAT either. So they don't need any of those two exams. They take admissions on the basis of the grade 12th results, grade 10th results, grade 12th results, and sometimes they also consider the SAT. So they have multiple modes of entry, and the program remains exactly the same as the BITS Pilani program. They also offer a very interesting business program, actually, which is unique to the BITS Pilani Dubai campus. So, a fairly good option. Then there's, of course, the Mahe Dubai campus, there's the Amity, there's the SPJN, Symbiosis, SRM Dubai campus, Amrita, and the other Dubai campuses I've not really visited. I've only seen the Birla one and the SPJN one. Both of those, SPJN is more like a small campus. It's like a vertical building which has a couple of floors, but decently done up. It has all the basic infrastructure that is required, and decently popular also. So these are the Indian campuses in Dubai. Most of them you will find will be single buildings. Then we look at, yeah, I think we can, the US universities in Qatar. So what Qatar has done is basically they've marked out a single space in which all of these universities have now opened their branch campuses and they share the facilities. So it's kind of like an incentive for the universities also. And they share facilities, research projects, and other things. Some very interesting universities are here. The costs are fairly high, and we'll talk about it later. There's a way of offshooting the costs when you study in Qatar. So you have the list here. Also, the Cornell Medical Program that is offered in Qatar. Right. So some
Yeah,
very
that's a
interesting,
really interesting one. And I think
very interesting.
the integrated 6-year one is a fairly
Yeah.
new, I think, thing for them.
Yeah. There's also the RS,
Oh,
the
sorry.
Royal Surgeon Program in Qatar, which I think I forgot to mention. The RSIS,
RCSI.
yeah.
Okay. Um, okay.
Yeah.
And for the Middle East, so the post-study, especially in the UAE, can be tricky. There is some talk of a longer extended 2-year postgraduate visa, but at least, according to the Ministry of Manpower, it's not yet official. So the it's being proposed. So right now, it is you can extend the student visa by 6 months. There is this 10-year golden visa, and it is really for exceptional students. So I think for students who might be studying at one of these US universities that are in the top 100 globally, that could be an option if the student's GPA is strong. Of course, if a student has parents who are residing in the UAE, that's a nice thing because they can sponsor their male children for to stay on in the country up until the age of 25, and then female children pretty much till they get married. So that is an option in case there is a parent in the UAE. And Qatar has a graduating student visa of up to a year where you can stay back and look for employment. Um, of the US university, so the US universities are all pretty, good about offering need-based financial aid as well. And some of them do have merit scholarships too. When you look at the UK universities or even the Indian universities, a lot of them do offer academic-based scholarships. So if you're a CBSE student of 90% or 95% plus, then, up to half of the tuition fee can be waived off by scholarships. Qatar has an interesting program through the Qatar Foundation where it offers interest-free loans. And there are a couple of ways. So one is a service-based payback. So for each year that you work for for one of these QF approved organizations, a percentage of your loan can be waived off. Or there's also a staggered sort of like EMI kind of model. So you pay back a certain percentage of the loan every month once you start working. And the other option is to, when you do your ongoing studies at the Hamad bin Khalifa. But um, I think what I also found was that's not a sure thing. Right, Sapna? I don't know if you have any more because at
Uh,
least from what I could see,
so,
it's not a,
yeah, it has to be approved. So
yeah,
depends on what program are you doing and stuff like that.
correct. Um, Oh, okay. So that's really, the stay back options, I think. And of course, I think all of you are probably as aware as we are of. I mean, I think the both of these places are pretty good in terms of being sort of a liberal oasis, especially Dubai more so in the Middle East. So I myself have a sibling who's now lived in Dubai pretty much all his life, the last 35 years. And it can be a pretty good place, but the cost of living in both these places is pretty high. Yeah. Okay, so in Asia, we will cover Singapore, Hong Kong, but also take a quick look at Japan and Korea. And Singapore, Hong Kong, of course, are popular. So I mean, even though this is called emerging destinations, we still had questions in the past about it. So we added them in. Japan is definitely making a big push, I think, given that their own, demographics are, because of the aging demographics, I think, need a lot of infusion of young, fresh blood. And so they are making an active push towards attracting international students. Um, so a lot of these places have very high quality public institutions and also some international branch campuses. And the nice thing is the academics are, sorry, the admissions are primarily academics based. So we'll start with Singapore. So there are six public universities, all at most of them, especially NUS and NTU, they do feature regularly in the top universities in the world. But the others are pretty strong too. And I'll pause for a minute to ask Sapna about her experience visiting these universities. So, any observations, Sapna?
So,
Especially the public versus the private and things like that.
so two things. One, of course, I think from all the colleges I visited, and I visited almost all of them, I found Singapore Management University to be quite a revelation. It was wonderful. Um, Also have a couple of students there having a great experience. And for business finance programs, actually, maybe even outrank in terms of, employer credibility than the other two, which are the more popular, the NUS and the NTU. So the SMU is absolutely brilliant for the economics, finance, business, psychology kind of programs. Then, of course, the SUTD and the SIT. The SIT more has more like food processing, culinary, those kind of programs. It has engineering, but it has also has those kind of programs. And the SUTD is actually an MIT partnership university, kind of. I mean, it's inspired by MIT. They got their curriculum from MIT, so there's some kind of association there. So extremely difficult to get in, highly tech oriented, very good architecture engineering programs. And then the SUSS, the University of Social Sciences, when I visited them, the feeling that I got about them was that a lot of the students who are there are not right out of school. So they have more adult population who are studying at the SUSS. So that was the feeling, but I think SUSS is now trying to change that dynamic, and they were working, and I'd visited them about 3 years back. So they are changing, actively changing the dynamic, and they're trying to position it more towards right out of school kids also. All of them were good institutes. They had great infrastructure and good faculty in place. So public university is absolutely great. In the private space, I only visited a couple. Um, uh, they are as good as their original campuses. So the LaSalle is the original. It's a design school. Same for NAFA. SIM offers degree programs from other countries. So there are UK universities offering their programs. There are Australian universities offering their programs. Decent infrastructure. Faculty is largely local, but sometimes for a UK university, the UK university people will fly in and teach certain modules. So it's more like a branch campus that is managed locally and that offers multiple programs from multiple universities. Yeah. And for other Australian universities and all, I think. Um, so if I can be frank, uh, I mean, you'd rather go to the main university because unless you have a reason that you want the child to stay in Singapore, right? So if that is not the case, then it is pretty fairly easy to get into a curtain directly. So why would you do it in Singapore unless you want to be in the country? So that's my personal take on it. But otherwise, decent. Nothing wrong with them. They were decent.
Yeah, I
How
think
did
that's
they
what we
cost?
hear from our, fellow counselors as well, I think. But yeah, proximity is, I think, one of the
Yeah.
strong
But
reasons
but
for,
the disadvantage is you don't get a post-study work visa, right? So
yes, yeah.
uh,
So
to
we'll,
get in the
yeah,
parent country.
yeah, so we'll
So
get to that in a once we cover Hong Kong as well. So in Singapore, of course, I think many of you might be familiar with the Ministry of Education grants. Why? So one is there are, merit scholarships available in many of these universities. The merit scholarships depend on the pool of other, the pool in any given year. And so it is extremely, I mean, these are extremely competitive universities anyway. The Ministry of Education grants are also, they can cover up to 50% of the tuition. And the stipulation is that you have to work for a Singapore registered company for up to 3 years. If you break the bond before 3 years, then you just pay that prorated discount back to the government. Um,
Within
and
interest.
the, sorry?
Within interest, the charge
Yes,
interest.
yeah. And the MOE grants are also not a given. I mean, there is an application, you still have to be a competitive student. So it is still, so if you're an A-level student, typically that's, four A levels, not your typical three A levels. So there are, I think it's still a competitive process. But it can be a real added benefit. So. Hong Kong again, a lot of sort of QS top 100, 200 institutions in Hong Kong. Post, 2000, whatever, 19 protests or 2020, I can't remember, but it seems to have settled down. I mean, there are now, we have to, yeah, I don't have the exact statistics, but there is an increased influx of international students. A lot of these universities do offer pretty generous scholarships. So I think, it is something that's worth looking at again. Um, of course, parents are concerned, about the fact that it's now China, but I think, at least from what we hear on the ground, it seems like that's not an issue unless like in most places in the world, and we were talking about this with the US as well, that as an international student, you always have to be a bit more, you have to keep your head down a bit more than the locals have the ability to do. So I think that's the only thing we'll add about Hong Kong. Sorry, and these are the universities. They're all, I mean, all of it in Singapore and Hong Kong is, they're all English taught programs, and so uh, good options. Um, Okay, so post-study, right? Singapore, there is so typically there's really no stay back option, but there is this new sort of long-term visit pass, and there are two ways of getting it. One is through this immigration authority, the ICA, and the other one is through the Ministry of Manpower. And there are some differences, but basically it does seem like, and this is a relatively new thing, so we will also be reaching out to our university colleagues in Singapore and finding out more about this. But it does seem like you could extend your stay for up to 2 years to look for a job, but it's a little fuzzy. One of the things about Singapore, and this had come up in an earlier session that we did, was, is it harder for international students to look for jobs, for employment? And Singapore government does have this thing called a dependency ratio ceiling, which is depending on the sector. So for construction, that is 85%, which means any given company can have up to 85% um, foreign workers.
International.
Yeah, no, foreign workers. So this is the dependency on foreign workers. So the reverse. So in services, it's a DRC of only 35%. So a lot of your IT, finance, banking, all of those fall into the services category. But I think there is a leeway for companies because they just pay a fine if they cross that limit. The fine is per head. So something just to be mindful about that I mean, I think that time Sapna had mentioned too that, like, I mean, this is true for any place, right? US, UK. As an international student, you will always have a higher hurdle when looking for jobs because somebody has to sponsor you, and that is an additional cost and effort on the part of the firm. So that also becomes a hardship for smaller firms and things like that who don't have that, who don't necessarily have those policies, processes in place necessarily. But having said that, I mean, both of us do have students who have found employment in Singapore, so and you do have to hustle. I mean, and that's true everywhere. Of course, the pros are, I think everybody knows, Singapore is, it's safe, it's diverse. There's, huge Indian population. Hong Kong, there is a 1 year stay back to seek employment, and you do have, and in both of these places, finance especially is very strong, IT is very strong, and then additionally, Singapore also has healthcare and biotech coming out of it. So, okay,
I wanted
Sapna,
to
do you want to
add one
take?
point
Yeah.
to the Singapore Hong Kong thing. Almost every student of mine who studied there uh, always mentions how competitive the students are. So the atmosphere in the universities itself is highly competitive. Um, it's the East, very, very competitive with each other. So, especially, I don't know, from a school like mine where it's a residential school, kids are used to doing group work and stuff, but not in these. So, in these universities, a child has to be highly okay with working alone and being competitive in the classrooms. That's very important.
Yeah, I think related, Aditya has just asked about the, SAT score, and I think at least based on experience, 1500 plus,
Yeah.
I'd say
They say they don't need it,
yeah, they
but
say
they
they
definitely need
exactly.
it. They
Yeah.
definitely need they want to see it, yes.
It's the same way, Aditya, if you're in the A levels, they say good pass. That's the exact words, good pass in three A levels. But honestly, they're looking for A stars and four A levels. I
Yes.
mean, really, it's
And for a
it's really
CBSE
competitive.
kid, I would say NUS and NTU, you don't have a chance unless you have a 95%, at least in the
Yeah,
competitive programs, right?
yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that we're working with.
Yeah, and
Plus, the
also the question was admissions are holistic or academic. They're academic. I think the only extracurricular they look at, and by the way, you should look at the university website because they make this very clear, right? So the only extracurriculars they care about are things like international Olympiads and stuff like that. Like they don't care that you were on the student council or whatever. Like so, like academic, sorry, subject. So academic extracurriculars, but at a very top level, like national or international level. Those are the
yeah.
only things that they.
Except in Hong Kong, if you're looking at the scholarship, they're
Oh,
100%
sorry,
scholarship.
yes. Yeah. This was
There,
specifically for
there,
NUS, his question.
then you
Yeah.
need the leadership and all of that also.
Yes.
But
True. Yeah.
otherwise, absolutely true that academic supercurriculars, are very, very important. Supercurriculars being basically extra academic work that you've done
Yeah.
besides your curriculum. I think we can move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Japan, uh, absolutely brilliant in terms of the whole public infrastructure, in terms of safety, culture, in terms of how tech savvy they are. So brilliant for engineering and any of those kind of programs. They are, as Ramya mentioned earlier, really doing the pitch. They want more and more international students to come in. Uh, any of these universities mentioned here, these are all public universities, absolutely brilliant. Um, the offerings in English are limited, especially at the undergrad level in the public universities. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you do find the program that you're looking for, it can be a really good option. They also have something known as a G30 programs, which is basically Global 30. So these are English taught programs then, and you can look at that. The Japanese government in its has been offering something as the MEXT and the JASO scholarships. Pretty good, pretty interesting. You can apply to them directly. They cover not only tuition, but also extra costs of living, even your laptops and everything else. And yeah, and anyway, the cost is very low in terms of tuition costs, 3 to 3.5 lakhs per annum for public universities, 7 to 12 lakhs per annum for private universities. So pretty reasonable. I've had a chance to visit one private university in Japan. I found, and this is a, a smaller, like not a very famous one. So I saw TIU, but the infrastructure was really good. It was pretty strong. And actually, I saw a lot of Indian students on the campus. So clearly, something that is there is a big enough body. I saw Indian restaurants all over in that area. They were of course small. They were nothing fancy, but they existed, which meant that they are getting traction, and there are a lot of Indian students who are now coming to Japan to study. Anything you want to add to this, Ramya?
No, so I was just looking at the notes we had. At least I had attended something done by a few Japanese universities. I think that the take a look at the rankings as well. I mean, it's a lot of these universities are in the QS World rankings in the top 100, and so um, you know,
Yeah.
just good option actually. Um, that's really it.
Go to the next one. Yeah. Okay. So for
Oh, so
Korea,
Japan, sorry, do you just wanna, I'll just add that in terms of the stay back options, so there is a 2 year stay back option to gain work experience. And, I think the companies, like we said, are actively seeking international professionals because of manpower shortages and things. So,
yeah. Okay, so for Korea, again, so Korea actually, a couple of my counseling friends told me has become very popular in their schools, even these are Indian schools. I think the whole K-pop culture and all of that is kind of attracting students towards Korea. They do have some beautifully globally ranked universities. We've named some of them here. The Yonsei University actually is a very interesting model. It offers some very interesting English programs, English taught programs. So great. The fees is quite affordable, 3 to 8,000 US dollars. Uh, and so main programs are engineering and science based, most of them. The Yonsei, the Underwood International College, is actually a fully American style liberal arts college, and everything there is taught in English. And at the cost of 4,000 to $6,000. I think it's quite good. Of course, we all know that Korea is a global leader in a lot of tech, a lot of other industries to do with engineering, automotive, semiconductors, and then, of course, also big on beauty, cosmetics, and the fashion industry. Um, they do have a Korean scholarship, which I believe is very difficult. I mean, it's quite competitive. And then some universities offer their own scholarships. But I think usually advises that if you can afford it, already it is quite reasonable. So that would be the way to kind of check uh, whether affordability. Yeah. Don't count on these scholarships, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. We can go to the next one. Yeah, so the Japan and Korea post-study. Japan actually does, like Ramya mentioned, the job hunting visa, which can, this thing, they do different kinds of visas, and then they have a work visa. And then sometimes they also do what is so if you have a job after you've graduated, but your job is going to start, say, 6 months later, you can get a pending employment kind of visa. So they do have a lot of kinds of visas. They've also started an entrepreneurship visa for graduating students. So if you have a business idea in mind, they also give you visa to kind of try that idea. I think it's beautiful. And I'm just repeating the top industries already mentioned. Korea has the job seeker visa, which allows you to stay for 6 months to find employment. And then if you get employment, then you get the work visa. And they also have the permanent residency, which is usually 5 years. That's okay. I think we're done.
sorry, my trigger
No, that's
happy fingers here. Um, okay, so Australia and New Zealand, I mean, many of you may be familiar with Australia already, but um, so both of these, there are 3 or 4 year programs. Again, the applications tend to be really simple. And if you're curious, a lot of the universities, at least the group of 8, all have very clearly defined sort of entry criteria for all their degrees across, like it's a nice table with all the degrees running to across the rows, and the columns are all different curriculums. So you can take a look at the requirements by curriculum. The They are, some of the most generous with their stay back visas. And so it is up to, and we'll take a look at it more in the next slide. But so still remain good options, despite all the sort of narrative that comes out of, oh, Australia has put. So, okay, so this has to be addressed because lately there have been a lot of weird, like, there have been a lot of reports about students from 6, 7 states just being banned and things like that. And it's really not true. They have made it more stringent, so you do have to prove, that you are. There's just more scrutiny when you're applying for the student visa to make sure you're a genuine student and not just, like in that movie Donkey, like you're not just somebody who's going there to emigrate, but to actually study. So Australia, again, this is the group of eight that we've put here. Almost all of them are in the top 100 in the world, and very, very strong universities. So, I think basically it remains a good option because in terms of the cost, it is still I think the comparison here is really more towards places like US, Canada, UK, because the cost is more reasonable than those. Maybe not as reasonable as some of the other places we have looked at today. And Australian universities do offer some of these scholarships that you can see here. And again, the scholarships are based on the pool of applicants, so it's not a guarantee. You have to be on top of the pool. You don't necessarily know what that is, but typically, the obviously the higher you score in your academics, the better. And some of them, like the Macquarie ones, require an additional sort of video application and things like that. So, um, I think,
So,
uh,
yeah, so just wanted to add to the scholarship bit. Australia also has something what they call a scholarship, which is like a discount, which basically, if you get more than, so many universities have this, if you have more than 85%, if you have more than 90%, I'm talking about CBSE, you get an automatic 20% or sometimes 30% off the tuition. So that's pretty standard for most Australian universities. I've had a chance to visit a number of them. From the group of eight, about four or five of them. The campuses are brilliant. They are like a US style campus. Most of them, especially Sydney, Melbourne, ANU, those kinds. Um, they have a very good infrastructure. They have good student support. So pretty much have everything in place. Very safe country, very welcoming culture wise. The challenge with Australia is that sometimes students go there. I mean, if you're going there to if you're not going to be turning up for classes or something, you may be in for a root shock at the end. So they're pretty easygoing till the exams actually come in, and then they get pretty strict. So sometimes students find that a little shocking that they've not done work through the year, and suddenly, they're pulled up in the end. So you would send to Australia a kid who's responsible with their time. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And the rest, yes. Yeah, all of it. And finding uh, you got the advantage for Australia also is that you can also apply after you finish your boards for the year. So, like for US and UK, you have to apply well in advance. In Australia, it can be kind of a last minute thing that so if you've not got through some of your first options, you can apply to Australia. These days, taking the visa is taking a little time, so you may end up going in the January intake instead of in the July intake. But that option does exist, and it's pretty regularly taken by students. If you're towards the end of your 12th, then Australia becomes a good option.
yeah, I think for those of you with children in 12th grade, so there are two intakes. There is the February intake and then the July intake. And for them, because they're in the Southern Hemisphere, February is the main intake and actually July. So not all courses are offered in the July intake. So that's
So
something to
what
be.
I've seen, Ramya, in my school is that kids who are trying, say, the JEE or the NEET again,
Mm,
for them, Australia becomes a really good option because they get the
true.
chance to do that. They get that extra semester to do that, and then they also have an Australian admit.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah. So there's a way to strategize these things. So New Zealand has 8 universities, and all of the 8 universities are very well ranked and in top 3% of the universities worldwide. Obviously, all of them they offer English speaking, English courses, English language taught courses. It really is a still very underrated destination. I mean, especially when you look at the very reasonable cost of tuition, and I believe the cost of living as well. Um, and we it's they do it's all these universities have we had a couple of fairs in the school, and I think they all offer really good quality programs. The people seem friendly. I think it's and the post-study work visa is I believe up to 3 years, right, Sapna? And I
We
think
have it in the next slide.
yeah.
The post.
um there you go. I think we'll just go to that. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So the other thing to do with New Zealand is that since there are 8 universities, they're all public, government managed. So they've divided courses, right? So one university does medicine and no other university then does medicine. So
Hmm.
so they literally have their own specializations. And so very, very easy to select, because if you want to do a certain program, it'll be available only with one or max with two universities. So that way, quite easy. Um, in terms of post-study work visa, as Ramya mentioned, New Zealand's up to 3 years, but it does depend on the qualification and where you do it from. So that's a similar thing in Australia too. They have these two or three cities, and they beside if you're studying in those cities, or if you're working in those cities, you get lesser points than if you're living in rural areas or you're studying in universities in rural areas. Rural areas are not really rural areas, just outside Sydney and Melbourne for Australia, outside the main two cities for New Zealand. So that will affect how much time you get to stay back. Then, of course, whether the course that you've done is high demand field, and they publish that on their websites very regularly. They also update it regularly. So sometimes in Australia, especially, we've seen that they fluctuate, and suddenly your course may go from the high demand list to the less demand, and then your post-study work visa will reduce, and finding jobs will also be a little more challenging. But you can't really help or guesswork that. So whatever it is, you have to follow on the website. And then there's the pathway to residency. They have a skilled migrant category. The industries, I think all of us are very already quite sure about what kind of industries are very popular in Australia and New Zealand. I will say that education is a big, I mean, so uh, if there's a student who wants to do B.Ed, or wants to get into the teaching industry, New Zealand, I believe, is pretty strong at that, and so is Australia. So that, and then of course tourism, hospitality, food technology, all of that. Yeah. um, Also, I think very friendly. So I think the one thing I've learned from Australia when I visited is extremely friendly people, very high, even the basic wages that you get as even as a non-skilled person. So many times the way to defray costs as we speak, especially I have a lot of students in Australia, they are able to find part-time jobs fairly easily, as long as they're not particular about what kind of a job is it. So, bagging groceries, manning shops, that kind of stuff, very easy to make money. And I've had kids who, started to definitely take care of the living costs completely by themselves, and sometimes actually even take care of at least part of their tuition costs in Australia through their degrees. So that is something to keep in mind when we choose Australia.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about New Zealand, how that works, finding jobs, but I know in Australia it's fairly easy.
Yeah, I think
But,
New Zealand, even though the universities all have a presence in India and they do, at least I haven't, for some reason, I don't know, I haven't had that many kids actively. I don't know if it's the distance or just the perceived sort of,
it's also it's a quieter destination, and many
exactly.
times young kids are really not looking at
Yeah.
that quiet.
But my gosh, the campuses are gorgeous. I will
Yeah.
say that. The only thing also, what was interesting with New Zealand is that, so while medicine, because I know students are always looking for some options outside of India for, not always, like, I mean, there's some students who can afford it
Always
and do look
actually,
for
I
options
say.
outside of India just because of the level of competition with NEET. But with New Zealand, while they do offer these sort of, medicine like MBBS programs, it is always like contingent on, it is like a pathway program. So if those of you, if you, anybody is interested, please reach out to us. I mean, because there is some nuance there. There is a chance that you won't make it past that pathway. And so it can be a little deceptive the way it is.
Australia has three colleges which offer the direct program, but those are very difficult to get into,
Yeah,
very, very difficult to get into. But the rest are, as Ramya mentions, you do pre-med and then you get into the med program.
yeah,
But a sure passport to residency, I'm
yeah.
told. Become a doctor, yeah, or even nursing actually. Uh,
Okay, so we'll open it up to questions. Thanks for sticking around and welcome to the new people who joined during. So this is again us. Our WhatsApp community is growing, and so we have started sharing some newsletters, some events that are being hosted by universities, regularly, especially once we enter the months of starting in July, especially starting in August, September, universities do a lot of sessions as well. And so we will share some of those. We have shared our summer programs compilation on the WhatsApp group. So please do join if you haven't. We because the idea is not so much, we're not trying to be influencers and saying like, share, subscribe, or whatever, but if we build a healthy enough base, we would love to bring in universities to talk to you guys. We would love to do virtual fairs with, for those of you whose schools don't have counselors or who don't have the ability to attend these things. We like the amount of reach and contact we have is amazing. And sometimes we feel frustrated that we can't share that with everybody beyond our schools. And so this is really a way for us to do that at a larger scale. But that starts with also enticing the universities by saying, hey, look, we do have parents who will attend these things. So, so that's the only reason we even put this up. Otherwise, we are very happy talking to, whoever comes and turns up. So, sorry.
so
So do
there's
we
a
have
question.
questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have to go through agents for Australia? Yes. So yes and no. So Ramya, I'll take it because
Yeah, yeah.
this
I think
so
we'll
many
say the
kids.
same thing only. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you can apply directly to university. It's very easy. The application process is not difficult at all. And the forms are available online. You can do it. The only challenge is that the Australian government does not give a student visa unless you go through an education agent that's appointed by them. So there are certain agents that are appointed by them. Um, so you can easily get your own admission and then route it through an agent. Or if you want, you can route it through an agent from the beginning. The only thing to remember is that sometimes agents are trying to, fill their own quotas, and they may push you towards universities which may not be the best universities. So as long as you do your own research, and you are Australian universities have admission offices, they have officers who are willing to talk to you. All the information is available online. It's not difficult to get the information. So it's better to do your own research and be sure about which universities you want to apply to and why, or go ahead and take your admissions and then go to an agent. So basically, don't be duped by an agent, but yes, you will be required to get your visa via an agent.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And I learned that a little bit the hard way because when you do your exactly, I think I don't want to
yeah.
go on about
And
it, but
sometimes
please be
agents
careful
will also
because
entice you
yeah.
by so they get a commission on every child that they send in. They will not tell you that. And they will entice you with I've had agents who say we give free IELTS practice, and they do that. So they will charge you nothing. They should not charge you anything. They will give you IELTS practice. They're willing to look at your SOP. They're willing to help you in every way possible. It can be useful as long as you are in control of your university list. So that's the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, so I mean, just throwing, there are some newer agents also who've come up, and some of them are doing, at least on the visa front, this one agent that I was talking to who also helps with visas for the families. So in the process of the student visa, they also kind of help you as parents apply for yours and things like that.
Most
So
of these,
there's good and bad.
most of the Australian agents will do that. They also help with immigration. So they do, and it's
Yeah.
usually the full service, and they do everything. Yeah.
Um, okay.
Are there any
Any other
questions?
questions?
Uh, Yeah, this is Arun, ma'am. Yeah,
Yes.
thanks
Hi.
for this live and for all the details that you have shared. And I think once my daughter got to know that, okay, there is a session that would give us more insight, she was like, okay, yes, I know, ma'am, and I want details. So that is good. So mainly, I know, I mean, I think you have covered from the perspective of countries and probably the pros and cons of it and what as a parents what we need to look at uh, what I want to know more is like, I mean, based on the major that my daughter have taken, right? So then that further probably filtered down on few countries where, from the post-work point of view, or even from the top universities point of view, so that would filter down further. So maybe I want to connect on these aspects, probably more discussion on these, maybe a one-on-one. I don't know. So just want to see, want to check with you how I can reach out to you uh, for a further discussion if I need.
Yeah,
Shana,
I
go ahead.
think Yeah, sorry. I think we were talking about because you guys are pioneers. Thank you for being early supporters of this. We are working out, how best to do this whole. We wanted to do things like open office hours and stuff. So just bear with us. But in the meantime, if you can just send a message through the guiding teams, I think I don't know if there's an ability to DM on that group. But please do, and we'll figure something out. Right, Sapna? I mean, we'll,
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Yeah, yeah. I think the WhatsApp community, if you can just write a message there, and then
yeah.
one of us will be in touch with you about it.
Okay.
I,
I
I, I just
don't think, no, just sorry. I don't think I'm part of that WhatsApp group. So is it like
You can
I
just
Oh,
share
here
my number?
it's
You
on
can
the
just share.
it's on the screen. So please,
Okay, the same link
just you
that I
can,
can share it, either LinkedIn or also. Okay, fine then. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks. Thanks.
We will, yeah. I think, yeah. If you can, you
give you
know,
two-way messaging on WhatsApp. Okay.
yeah.
We'll have to, yeah, we can do that. We'll do that.
have a
Ashlesha,
quick
do that.
question. Hi.
Hi.
Yes, Ratna.
Yes. So like my daughter is in AS levels right now. She's interested towards journalism and psychology and mainly like Australia. But when you said Australia, if the kids are not really focused or it's a tough country, is it like in what sense we should look into it? Just
No, no, no.
something to look.
Yeah, no, sorry. I think you, so that was me. I was not saying that the kids are not focused. What I'm saying is that in Australia, the kids are considered as independent adults when they come into a college. What happens is that sometimes children tend to, because admission into an Australian university doesn't have so many hoops to jump over, right? So
Exactly. I saw that too. Yes.
right? So kids sometimes tend to take it for think that it'll be as easy to go through the university itself. It's not. So the program itself is quite tough. It's going to be properly structured. You're going to have exams and you will have to clear them, right? So sometimes students think that because it's easy to get into, non-serious students go join universities and then they are not able to cope with the academic standards that are there. That's what I meant to say. So,
Okay.
when a child is going to an Australian university, you need to prepare them that they need to, take their studies very seriously because it's not easy to graduate.
Okay, understood. Just one more follow-up. do they like engineering sciences and business management? I know I've seen a lot of options in Australia for psychology and media studies, but very less option I've seen in New Zealand. Does New Zealand also have good opportunities when it comes to liberal arts and humanities, all these topics? Because
Uh,
recently I've started this research, but Australia I find it really good. But New Zealand I've not come across much choices in psychology and stuff.
So as I think, Ramya, unless you have something else to say, but mostly what happens in New Zealand is there'll be only one or two universities offering psychology, right? So in terms of choices, there will be limited because not every university will offer a psychology program because they're trying not to compete with each other. They're all funded by the New Zealand government. So it's because of that you won't find too many choices. Australia is brilliant at psychology. The one thing to keep in mind for psychology, because I've had a couple of students who studied psychology anywhere in the world actually, but really true of Australia, in the bachelor's the class sizes are large, so say there'll be say 50, 80, 100 kids studying psychology. That's not very large in the sense, but the master's level the class sizes are really small. So getting from a bachelor's to a master's admission for psychology can be quite challenging. The student must be on top of their class to be admitted into the master's program in psychology in most universities. So that is something to keep in mind.
Okay, this is really great. Thank you so much. Okay.
We have any more questions?
I
Yeah,
read that students under 18 are given separate dorms
yeah,
and mentors.
yeah. Do you want to take this? Australia has this rule very, very strictly in place.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a student who looked into it, but then he ended up going to the UK. He was underage.
Yeah.
I don't,
So
but
basically,
I know they do
they
have
assign,
you set
yeah,
a
they
local
assign a
guardian.
guardian to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a system in place, so university helps you put it in place. But yes, because they are very, very careful with minors, and if it is an 18-year-old, less than 18 years old, they will put you through the guardianship process. Many times I've had kids simply say, we'll join the February term, and use those 4 or 5 months to do something that they want to do anyway. And I think that's not a bad decision also. But yeah, but the system is in place. You don't need to worry if your child is under 18. The university will walk you through the process. It exists. Many times finding a hostel becomes a challenge. So the university, because uh, universities and the housing companies sometimes don't want to take that role, the guardianship role. So that may sometimes become a challenge, but there are support structures which will help you, and the university will be the best one to guide you through that. Do we have any
Just
more
on the
questions?
WhatsApp group, I believe so there are under the community, there are two groups. There's the announcements, which is broadcast only, and then there is a general group,
Where you can
which
ask.
is a two-way group. So I mean, as in you can, you know, the general group is meant for discussion, so you can definitely try and uh, ping in that. We'll take a look too. We are a little, we are of that
Yeah.
age where
I don't
tech
know
is a
if
bit
you're not,
challenging.
maybe if you're not familiar with us, we are both doing this in our spare time. Basically, because we believe that parents need more access to unbiased information and which is not commercially driven. So that's the reason we're doing it, and we are figuring it out, as Ramya says,
Okay, so
how
Arun's
to.
able to message. Yes, that's so great. Okay.
Alright.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think,
Yes.
and I'll remove so there's some permissioning thing as well, where one group you just automatically join, but the other group, yeah, for whatever reason, I think default setup as permissions. It's not like we need it because it's not like we're doing any filtering.
Yeah.
So, okay. Uh, all right. So yes, please, continue to post your questions on the group. We will, we are excited to sort of offer you some of the same things we do with our school students and the parent bodies. And, so good things are coming, hopefully. We are as excited. I mean, we are excited. Hopefully, you are as well. But thank you so much for joining us today. We will post this recording on the YouTube channel so that in case you miss it. But please do join. It is impetus, incentive for us. It's more fun for us to talk to you guys than to just do a recording and put it up there. So thank you so much again, and please feel free to keep your questions coming. That will inform a lot of what we bring to you going forward. So thank you so much,
And
everyone.
also
Have
on
a
WhatsApp, let us know what sessions you would like on
yes,
WhatsApp.
exactly. Yes.
Uh,
What sessions, what resources, what kind of, anything, really anything related to this. So
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
thank you so
Thank you,
much.
folks.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
Have a
much.
wonderful evening, everyone. Bye.